Welcome to the Rambling Podcast, where we discuss the journey of serial entrepreneurs and navigating the relationships in between. Welcome back, episode 2. We are here with the Rambling Podcast, and you guessed it, I'm the Rambler. And I've got the sidekick of the Rambler here to help me drive the conversation because there's a lot of it. And I'm excited. I'm excited to share with you guys, again, continuing our conversation about being an entrepreneur and being married to an entrepreneur, which is, sort of entertaining. So 2005, my wife and I meet, and we basically fast-tracked marriage.
Yes. You wanted me to come see you in San Diego after we met. And I'd never been to San Diego, so I was super excited to come out. And you took me on a week-long vacation up the coast. And that was our full love story. Like, that's where it happened. Like, yes, we talked on the phone, we got to know each other, but like when you took me, like you flew me out and totally spoiled me rotten. Like, you courted me from the very beginning, and we went up and down the coast. And that was my first time. And I fell in love with San Diego, and I fell in love with you. And so that was really the beginning, right? And so I was still living in Gainesville, so I had to go back home and tell my family and friends. So I'm moving across the country to San Diego, and they all thought I was really crazy. And I was like, you only live once, so I'm just going. Like, we'll see what happens. And so I did. Packed up everything, moved, just after a few months of knowing you. And so I think it's kind of brave on my part, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of knew. You kind of know in your gut when you know, like, you love someone and you want to be with them forever. You just do it. And so I did it. And then what was super cool is the first...
And you were 20 years old.
I was 20. I was just like, I'll finish school later. I want to live my life the way I want to live it. And I loved Southern California and obviously loved you. And I love traveling. And so one thing we really bonded over was traveling. And that's what we both loved. We both wanted a family, and we both wanted to travel the world. So we bonded over that. And the first year, up until we really had Braden, we traveled the whole time. Like, remember, like, we would go to Oregon or Canada or Hawaii or Mexico, or we did multiple cruises. Like, you just like constantly traveled with me, and you were able to work because you worked for yourself selling land remotely, right?
Yeah. And I would say from a romantic perspective, I always had friends that knew like I was the hopeless romantic, and that I was really good at sort of thinking about ways to make sure my wife was always, or at the time, happy. my girlfriend, happy.
Well, I was also really easy. But like, anywhere you wanted to go, I was down.
Yeah.
Like, anything you wanted to do, I was down.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like the passenger, like the sidekick. But any traveling you wanted to do, I was like, I'm there. Let's go.
Yeah.
So
And we did.
Easy.
We had a blast. And it's funny because most people think, oh, so Jeran made a bunch of money and they blew a bunch of money on traveling, and that's how he won her over.
Cheap.
But I will tell you, the interesting part was we traveled really cheap.
Yeah.
All the money that I made, I'd reinvested in projects. Like, my wife didn't really know I had a ton of money. She just knew that like our life,
you could support us.
I could take care of my wife, and she was at a point where she wanted someone to take care of her, even though she was young. She was very mature.
Well,
and
security is really attractive. Like, having someone that's gonna, not necessarily like, I don't need any name brand materialistic things, but like having someone that's gonna put a roof over my head and take care of me, and I know I'm secure, and that's very attractive in a man.
That's not very PC.
It's not PC.
No, sorry.
It's very masculine. I don't know.
Nah, it's masculine. It is masculine.
You're masculine.
And I agree. And
You're very masculine.
And I agree. And I think I realized too, when you meet the person that you really want to be with forever, you kind of take all the necessary steps to sort of protect that relationship and also provide for that person. And so, and it goes both ways, not just financial provision, but also like emotional provision. Like, my wife provided emotional provision that a lot of I never found in a relationship, where she knew my love language. So she would provide me these unique types of emotional provisions that I wouldn't normally get from a previous relationship, because we knew that we wanted to be together forever. And so I kind of like that term, emotional provision. It's kind of cool.
Emotional provision,
yeah. Anyway, so.
When I also have like kind of that perfectionist personality, so I like to read a lot of books, and so I would actually buy books on relationships, and I was reading like his needs, her needs, like what a man wants. So I was kind of self-taught at 20 years old, like how to be in a relationship, how to become a wife, and I was really excited. I remember before we were even, I don't even know if we were engaged. We were probably engaged by then, and I was like, can we just have a baby now? Like, I just want to settle down and have babies now. Like, I was really, really excited to just settle into marriage life, and
we were ready. It was It was August 4th, 2006. And I remember I planned, it was my wife's, her 21st birthday was August 1st, 2006. I can't believe I'm thinking it was her 21st birthday because she was so young. And I was
a child. I was an infant.
I was 28. She was turning 21. And I remember going, I'm going to surprise her and take her to New York City. And I was like, this is going to be fun. And I kind of gave her the heads up a day or two before, I think.
No. I remember like someone was like, oh, how was your trip to New York? And I remember being like, wait, what? And you were like, surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Maybe somebody spoiled that. So anyways, we get out there. My intent was to propose. And the way I was going to propose was on a billboard in Times Square. And most people would be like, you're out of your mind. I said, well, I've got a $5,000 budget. It's going to be an awesome proposal. I talked to everyone from, I think, oh my gosh, Clear Channel, all the advertising companies that actually had had some sort of ad space in Times Square. And they told me that Nationwide Insurance, and what was the campaign? Life Comes at You Fast or something like that. I don't remember. They had a campaign, and they basically, like, if you told them a cool story, they would put you on I believe the Reuters billboard, and then it scrolled a message, and then it had photos.
3 pictures.
Long story short, we get there, and it was the hottest time of the year, and
heat wave,
and Con Edison, I believe, is the name. Like they shut down the billboards all over Times Square. It was the first time, I believe, in the history of New York and Times Square they shut down billboards because of the heat. So they shut down the billboards, and we got there, I think, believe on a Monday, and it ran every single day at 5 p.m.
It was going to be scrolling every single day.
Yes.
But the billboards were shut down.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think we did like the Red Bus on like a Tuesday or Wednesday.
They were shut down.
And it was shut down, and I'm like devastated because I don't know what's going to happen. My backup plan was at a restaurant. And I was like, this is awful that I'm going to propose to my wife at a restaurant. So she has no clue that I'm proposing. We get to day 5.
I kind of thought, okay, maybe on my 21st birthday, and then you didn't. And I was like, oh, maybe not.
That's right. So 21st birthday passes, I don't propose. Friday comes, the billboard's back on.
But you planned a photographer, so you kind of had to plan a day, didn't you?
I planned that Friday.
Were you just talking to her?
No, that Friday was the day.
That was.
That was
did
always
they go
the day.
back on?
And it went back on that Friday morning.
On Friday morning.
The photographer let me know. I put on a nice pair of pants and a nice dress shirt.
You said you had a surprise for me.
And
I thought we were going to a show.
Yep. She thought we were going to a Broadway show. And we started walking down in the middle of Times Square. I basically turned her head, said, look up.
Yeah. You were like, wait, let's go to, well, no, you first you're like, because you got there early and you're like, let's go to a Starbucks. And I remember going to Starbucks and we got like pumpkin loaf, And then you're like, oh, let's just wait here because we have some time to kill. And then you were like, oh, look. And it was our picture. And then you were down on your knee. And no, actually, I noticed you were on your knee and I noticed the photographer like at the same time. And I was like, ah! I like started screaming. And you were like, down and you're like, say yes now. You can say yes now.
Yes.
I just like was shocked. So I didn't expect it to happen.
It was pretty surreal for both of us because first of all, I hadn't planned. I had sort of planned a backup then and didn't realize it was going to happen. And then we get engaged and then we went and saw the Broadway show, The Wedding Singer, which was pretty awesome. They actually wrote a full in a book called the Groom to Be book about my story because there was actually the Singer Union Tribune wrote about my story and our story, and then the Jacksonville. My story.
Did Jacksonville
write it? Jacksonville wrote something about it too.
No way.
I swear. I remember reading about it. Our story was like, cute. Very romantic, really cool. And I kept that.
Such a romantic.
I think both of us kept that romantic story alive for a long time in our marriage.
I'm not a romantic.
No, she is.
No. Nope. I am a realist. I am brutal. I am not a romantic at all.
You knew how to make me happy.
I knew your basic
my love language.
Male needs.
That you provided for. Yes, you did. So fast forward, so August 4th we get engaged.
Yeah, and then we travel.
We travel for a year. We enjoyed life. Biz was good. It was 2006. I'm cranking. Real estate's cranking. A year later to the day, we end up getting married. August 4th, 2007. In Coronado. That was an amazing wedding.
Yep.
And we took our honeymoon to Europe. We took a cruise from London to Turkey. And then we spent some time in Greece. Then we took...
Yeah, we backpacked.
We basically backpacked back to London through Italy.
So it was a month.
So that was an amazing experience. Amazing. And we get home, and 2 weeks after we get home, I remember my wife sitting at our pool in the backyard, and she gives me a card, and it's a thick card. I'm like, what is in the card? And the card was a pregnancy tester. that said positive, and I almost pooped my pants because that was the week that I also realized that the market was crashing.
Yep.
Like, and it was, although August 2007, I was a year prior. The land market usually goes before anything else in terms of real estate, and that market was crashing pretty quick in front of my face. So I was like, holy mackerel, like everything's kind of falling apart from a land perspective and business.
Next? How are you going to pivot?
How am I going to pay for my kids?
Yeah.
And that sort of,
You didn't think that at first.
No, but I mean, in your mind,
how
you're
am I
thinking
gonna
long
pivot
term. Yeah.
Long term.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, surprise.
Yeah. So it was a.
And you couldn't have been that surprised. I mean, come on.
I was actually, I don't think you realize, I was shook.
You didn't think it was going to happen that fast.
Lord had one day that this could have happened, and it happened.
No, come on.
I don't know.
Oh my
Anyway,
gosh.
so
It happened quick.
It happened quick.
It was a roller coaster.
We went straight from traveling straight to like,
Yes.
we're going to be parents.
Yes. And then I was pregnant and everything was fine. It was easy. My pregnancy was super easy and fun and I loved being pregnant. But then you got sick at the end of my pregnancy.
Yep.
And so I was obviously 22, had no family in San Diego. I mean, your family lived semi-close, but not close enough. I have no friends.
Yep.
I know nothing about parenting or babies. I mean, I have siblings, but it's just different.
Yep.
And then you get sick and then you're in and out of, I don't know if you want to talk about this, but you're in and out of, doctors and I don't know what to do. And then I'm having a baby and then it was just a lot of wildness. So everything, this is the roller coaster where it just took off.
Yeah. Well,
I was 8 months pregnant.
Yeah. Life changed pretty quick. I had a reaction to at the time, an antibiotic, and kind of spun me out a little bit.
Really bad.
I had some issues that were pretty significant.
Yeah.
That took me to doctors. Some doctors diagnosed me with, one doctor diagnosed me potentially having bladder cancer. Another doctor diagnosed me some neurological side effects.
Yep.
So it was a pretty really tough year because I think our child came out a month and a half or two after this happened.
Right. Because remember we were in Napa and
Yeah.
you were having those back pains and you wanted to go to the emergency room and I was like, just go back to bed.
Yes.
Just go take a bath.
Yeah.
And then everything from Napa happened.
Kind of unraveled. But you look back on all of it, and to me it was a blessing in disguise. To me it was a blessing in that I was just I learned a lot. I was a little smarter about my body.
And we learned a lot about our health.
Yeah.
And
so we have a baby about a month and a half later. It was a little bit of a difficult rushed pregnancy.
No, not pregnancy, birth.
I mean birth.
Yeah.
Yes. And we basically, when the first year of parenting was just really challenging with going through the stuff that I was going through,
the market was crashing.
Our market was crashing, and then our son was really our son was
24/7.
we had a colicky, like a lot of people do. We had a colicky baby who was really challenged. Yeah.
At 6 weeks old, I was Googling like what is wrong, and it was like high maintenance newborn, and I had to read all about. That went to my path of parenting books of high maintenance children, and so.
But it goes back to her high maintenance. It goes back to your high maintenance husband.
High maintenance husband. It's all genetic.
So it's genetic.
And he did look identical to you too.
Yeah. What is crazy is that boy is 16 now, and we look at pictures of him, and man, he is like he's spitting image of me, and he's also in a lot of ways he is the entrepreneur.
He is.
He started doing things at 12 years old as well that were pretty fascinating.
Remember he wanted to create Rad Baits.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah.
So at 12 years old, he wanted a lure company because he got into fishing and.
Yeah.
He's always been.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway.
So so fast forward, in and around that time of like, business great, entrepreneurship great, don't have a girlfriend, meet my wife, get engaged. Everything's perfect. Like
everything's perfect. I remember even thinking like life is so perfect. Like I actually had like this weird premonition of like it can't last forever, and it didn't.
and I think that like. You realize you have to be a realist when you get married and you have kids that like life isn't going to be rainbows and unicorns. Yeah. It's going to be challenging. And so in sort of the parenting game, in the health game, and not just my health, but also your kids' health, right? Yeah. Like making sure you make the right decisions for your kids, because you want to feed them right. Yeah. You want to make sure that all the things that you're doing as a parent are done the right way because you're responsible.
Yeah. So, and there's differing opinions on everything, on every kind of parenting.
Yeah. There's different styles of parenting. Like and the best part is everyone knows how to parent your kid better than you do.
And everything you're doing is wrong, and you need to try a different way to do it. And so it's really, really hard.
Sadly, what we realize with a lot of friends too is we we had a lot of friends that sort of shunned us because when you have the screaming child or you have the colicky baby, your friends aren't calling you to hang out because they know like,
well, I didn't want to hang out anyway. I'm like, don't hang out with me. I'm exhausted. And you would make me like travel with you still. And we'd have to go to restaurants and I'd be so exhausted in a restaurant. And our child would be screaming and I'd have to like walk outside the whole time. I'm like, this is pointless.
And there was probably moments in and around that where you're like, I don't think I signed up for this.
Oh, no. Yeah. There was definitely times where I was crying on the phone to people. And
Like-
I was,
I wanna go
pushing a
home?
stroller. Yep. Pushing a stroller, being like, I don't know what I got myself into. This is the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
Because you were sick and you were on the couch and like, I think you needed your mom and your sister because you needed someone to like kind of care for you.
Yeah.
No. And I was not that person at that point because I needed to care for my kid, my newborn that was screaming, and myself, and I wasn't sleeping. So
Yeah.
it was horrible.
Yeah.
It was really horrible.
It was a very, I would say that first year of raising our son was probably the hardest year of
exhausting.
marriage.
Yeah.
It was just exhausting. Like you'd get some sleep and then every hour he'd wake up and then I'd get some sleep and then we'd trade off and
There
then
was no sleeping,
there was the sleeping patterns as a parent and not being 100% healthy. Like it was a challenge for
When
sure.
he was always screaming.
Yep.
Like it was crazy.
Yep.
So so it took a good maybe 18 months.
Yep.
And then I was like, oh, I want another one.
Yeah.
So I was nursing Braden for so long. And then as soon as I kind of started weaning him, I knew, because I wasn't on any kind of birth control, I knew I could get pregnant. And I did in an instant. And I was really hoping for a girl, but our little Colty bear came out. And that's another experience. So
Yeah. We had
total different experience.
We had two polar opposite kids.
Yeah.
And of course, that's how it always works, right? You always talk to people, and you're like, "Tell me about your kids." You're like, "Well, one is blue and one is red."
Yeah.
It's just crazy how it all works out.
Yeah.
It was very interesting to have such a unique dynamic, but I believe our second child really sort of helped. Funny enough, sort of smooth over a lot of things because he was such an angel.
He made things easier. He really did.
Yeah, he kind of he balanced out our life a bit, and so
it's interesting how that happened.
things got back to normal. I think for
I wouldn't say normal.
I was well. You're never normal because at that time. So he was born in 2010. So 2008 was our firstborn. 2010 was our secondborn, and this is right in the middle. So right after he was born, the actual market crashed.
Yeah.
And that's where things were already extremely hairy for me.
But you were still doing okay.
100%. I mean, I had a lot. I was never over leveraged in real estate.
Yeah.
I still owned tens of thousands of acres in Nevada. I just couldn't give it away.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have a ton of debt. I wasn't uncomfortable. I was just in a position where what's next? I felt beat down by a business that I had been doing for almost a decade.
Yeah.
And I was just
got bored.
I got bored and burned
This
out.
is your ADD. Okay, so I remember actually Googling like ADD, ADHD, and I had no idea actually that you had ADD when I married you. And I remember being like, I married you not knowing this about you because I just thought you were solid.
Yeah.
You did your land.
I was solid.
You were solid and you did your land and you were so consistent. And then you started pivoting. And that's when I was like, wait, what? You're pivoting? Like, you know this. Like, why are you going to do something new? Like, and that was scary for me because the pivoting.
Yeah.
I had problems with your pivoting.
Well, here, the crazy part is that when
This is what an entrepreneur does. He pivots.
Yeah, when you're doing well and then you're not doing well, you start. I mean, and I will say you hyper focus. One thing about ADD and ADHD is you hyper focus on things that work.
Right.
And when things don't work, you tend to go everywhere. Right. So you start becoming sort of that
creative.
Yes.
That's when your creativity kicks in too.
Correct. And then you become sort of like you're chasing the shiny object, and then sometimes an object looks shinier and you go for it, right? And so I learned between 2008 and 2010, I actually was like, you know what? We had a chunk of capital sitting in an account, and I was like, let's go invest in some startups and sort of like work on this sort of passive strategy of income. And like by investing in some of these startups, we can sort of, we can have our hand in some things that we necessarily don't have to focus on ourselves, and then I can start building. When I got involved in the commodities markets a little bit, which I did really well, and then 2010, 11, I went back to, one thing we didn't touch on was in college I studied HTML and a little bit of software engineering, and so I kind of always had this like I was a bit of a web nerd and really wanted to dig in a bit. And that was like, I always said that Land 2.0 was Google page one. And so I really focused on a strategy of trying to understand SEO and trying to be at the top of whatever I was building.
You did that, yeah.
And so, I helped build websites. I did build a bunch of websites for free and for fun, just to get into it, understand it, learned SEO, and a lot of just sort of back end digital marketing, and did that for a few years. Again, investing in a bunch of startups along the way. Was sort of lost. I think like that was the point in time, like when the economy changed, where I was like, I felt hopeless because I went 10 years with something that was doing so well. And then now I'm like 2 years in and things weren't going great. Like, and not that we were financially in a bad spot, but just that like I couldn't sink my teeth into something that I felt like this is it. Like this is where I want to be next.
Well, and I feel like you invested in some bad startups too.
But we didn't know that for a few years later. Like that wasn't it. Like most of the stuff we invested in was, software, a really cool software company in 2000, I want to say 10 or 11. Then some brands. I think actually a few different software companies. And then I jumped into sort of like
real estate some more. You were going to do real estate.
Yeah.
You did do real estate.
Yeah. Then I got back into a podcast. Actually, my first venture back into real estate after a few years was working with a business partner that I had done some work with like 6-7 years prior, and I actually started the podcast with him, and it was actually extremely successful.
It was fun.
We did some live seminars. We traveled together. We did really, really well. But it wasn't me. At the time, it was unique and it was neat, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And so I decided that I continued to keep searching. At that time, I still had a bunch of land in Nevada, and I had some mining guys come to me, and we started looking at a mining project.
That's another.
And yeah, that was where you have a land portfolio, you look for the highest and best use of your portfolio, and that's where a couple mining guys came to me, and I sort of I decided to get creative with the deal and reverse engineered it and brought them in as business partners instead of selling land to them. And I'm still involved in that project. And unfortunately, it's been a bit of a money pit, which is the challenge as an entrepreneur, spending lots of money on a project that's
a money pit.
Not everything.
I'm a money pit.
You're a money pit. No,
Kids are a money pit.
No.
Business is a money pit.
No, that's an investment. You're an investment, and the kids are an investment. Oh. And I don't know, it's kept me sane. So, but I will tell you, up into that point of like trying to figure out, now that you've got land, what do you do with it? And I had this portfolio, and I couldn't move land. I would move small pieces of my portfolio. That's right, I forgot. I had to foreclose on a big geothermal project, so I got into alternative energy. In and around that time, I started investing. So I had a lot of things going on, but I just couldn't sink my teeth into like. And these were projects where I was making, I'd acquire a project and I'd flip it. And I'd make $250,000 or $500,000 on that deal. And you have these big ups and downs. I think that like people forget, like you stroke a check for $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, and you're hoping that there's a return on investment. And sometimes there wasn't, or sometimes it took 3 years. And they're big checks to write, especially when you're growing a family and you're investing in other projects. So that was always a challenge. It was just managing risk. And your investment portfolio. And I was young. I think I was 32, 31, 32, and I'd already written several checks. And I didn't really understand how to invest. And again, it goes back to a mentor. I should have found someone to say, help me. And so I do it a lot now. I love it. I love helping young kids. I love helping.
I think you still need a mentor though. Do you
have
a mentor?
I do.
I think you need more.
I need more?
Yeah.
I thought you were my mentor.
No.
Okay.
I think you need more. Please.
Everyone, you know what? It's true. Actually, it's funny you say that. It is true. Everybody needs a mentor. Yes. I don't care how old you are. Everyone needs someone to talk through deals. The challenge with me is I have deals in different worlds. So I'll have a tech entrepreneur or a tech investor that helps, that sort of helps mentor me through a project or a process. But I don't have one specific person because I'm still working on real estate projects. I'm still working on tech projects. I still have money involved in brands. So for me now, it's really just focusing in on who can help me with a specific project that can mentor me through that project. But
I think you need to find someone like yourself that's gone through all these roller coasters and but is older and wiser.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't think you have someone like that.
I mean, it's hard to find, right? Kind of hard to find, but
You're not hard to find.
What's
that?
that?
People reach out to you.
No, I do. That's again.
You mentor people.
I love it. I mean, look, one thing I do really
college
enjoy
kids.
is I love helping college kids. just sort of figure out who they are, what they want to do. Now, relationships. I love to counsel, younger guys through like, hey, I'm getting married. I had one recently that there's a young guy that I've been mentoring for years.
Don't do it. Just kidding.
No, I would never say that.
Just kidding.
But he had an amazing woman. He got married. They just had their first kid, and we keep in touch quite a bit. And he pinged me, and if I don't know something about it, I'll connect him with someone that does. But I think it is good to know someone that says, I want to help you. And there's always someone that needs help, and especially now we're 2024. Things are interesting, right? The economy's changed a lot over the years, and now more so. Kids really need someone to just say, bad idea, good idea. Here's who you need to connect with to make that idea go somewhere. So to sort of wrap this up today, I would just say, I think that finding a mentor is really important. Being around someone that can drive you into a direction that is successful is super important. If you are married, being able, one of my biggest dilemmas with my wife is I kind of pour out when I'm having a bad day. I'll share it with her, and she gets really frustrated.
Yeah.
And I've learned that
it's just emotionally exhausting sometimes because you have so many things going on, and I can't do anything about them, and you want to put it on me. Totally. And I also work and have kids in the house and the dog, so it's just
totally.
Yeah, I'm not
totally. And I still, I have some amazing projects right now. I'm a long term. There's things are amazing, but I would say It doesn't matter. Short-term, long-term cash flows are obviously two different things. And so I think it's really important for people to understand that you surround yourself with people you want to be like when you're older and to help you be successful. And so to wrap up the episode, I think it's just something important to note is when you're chasing life success, obviously you're not chasing dollars, so to speak, all the time. You're chasing happiness. And I think happiness comes in a lot of forms. And for me, I love to give, and it's my time, it's obviously financially, it's to my wife, it's to my kids. So I think it's important to note that you want to surround yourself with people that can do that and that can help you provide that opportunity at some point by maybe connecting you or just walking you through the challenges of life. And I think that having my wife around me and having successful couples from a marriage perspective that have done it 10 years longer than we have is super helpful for us. So I would say find that person to help you sort of level up in terms of marriage or in terms of sort of your life success. Thank you so much for listening and tuning in. Next episode is going to be a really interesting one. We're going to get into kind of like the 2008 economic collapse times 10 in COVID and sort of where we came to and where we built up to until another pretty heavy economic period. And again, as an entrepreneur, we pivoted and sort of where life took us there, and and some of the ideas and concepts I built along the way there. So thank you for listening.